76,000 soldiers surrendered. It was the largest surrender of American-commanded forces in the entire history of the United States military. And what the Japanese Imperial Army did to those 76,000 men over the next 65 miles has been called one of the most documented war crimes of the Second World War. They marched them, starving men, sick men, men who had been surviving on less than 1,000 calories a day for months, marched them 65 miles through the Philippine jungle in tropical heat that reached over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. No food, no water, no medical care, and anyone who fell, anyone who could not keep pace, was beaten, bayonet, or left to die on the road. Between 5,000 and 18,000 men died on that march. And the general who commanded the Japanese forces responsible for it was tried, convicted, and executed. But the general who abandoned those 76,000 men to their fate in the first place, who left them behind and escaped by boat in the middle of the night, received the Medal of Honor. The Philippines fell to the Japanese Imperial Army in the days after Pearl Harbor. Within hours of the December 8, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese had destroyed American air power in the Philippines on the ground. The soldiers who remained, American and Filipino, fell back to the Bataan Peninsula, a jungle-covered finger of land jutting into Manila Bay. And there they held, for 4 months, 76,000 men against the full force of the Japanese 14th Army. They held on starvation rations. They held as disease spread through the ranks. They held as malaria, dysentery, and beriberi took men who Japanese bullets had not. They held because they were promised reinforcements. Ships were coming. Food was coming. Help was coming. The help never came. General Douglas MacArthur commanded the defense of the Philippines from Corregidor Island. On March 12, 1942, while his men were dying on Bataan, MacArthur departed Corregidor by PT boat under cover of darkness. He left 76,000 men behind. He reached Australia. He gave a speech. He said, "I shall return." President Roosevelt awarded him the Medal of Honor. The men on Bataan called it the Medal for Desertion. 3 weeks after MacArthur left, the men of Bataan could hold no longer. On April 9, 1942, General Edward King made the decision that no American general had ever made before. He surrendered 76,000 American and Filipino soldiers, the largest surrender in American military history. And then the Japanese Imperial Army under General Masaru Homma made a decision about what to do with 76,000 prisoners. They marched them. The march began at Marivilles at the southern tip of Bataan. The destination was Camp O'Donnell, 65 miles north. The men who began that march had already been starving for months. They had already been fighting disease for months. Some had open wounds. Some were running fevers. None had adequate water. The Philippine sun in April is merciless. Temperatures above 100 degrees. No shade on the open road sections. Japanese soldiers lined both sides of the column with rifles and fixed bayonets. The rule was simple: keep moving. Anyone who stopped was beaten. Anyone who fell and could not rise was bayoneted where they lay or left for the soldiers at the back of the column to deal with. Prisoners who reached toward roadside artesian wells for water were beaten back. Filipino civilians who tried to throw food or sugar cane to the prisoners were pushed away by Japanese guards. Men packed into metal freight boxcars for the final portion of the journey suffocated standing up. The cars were sealed, the metal heated by the tropical sun. Men died on their feet, unable to fall, because the car was too packed to fall in. Between 5,000 and 18,000 men died on that march. The range is that wide because the Japanese kept no accurate count. At Camp O'Donnell, the destination of the march, the dying continued. An estimated 1,500 Americans died in the camp in the first 2 months. An estimated 26,000 Filipino soldiers died in the same period. Men who had survived months of jungle warfare, months of starvation, 65 miles of death march, died in the camp at the end of it. From dysentery, from malaria, from the accumulated physical destruction of everything that had been done to them. And the Filipino soldiers who survived, who had fought alongside American forces from the first day of the Japanese attack to the last, were betrayed a second time. Before the war, the United States government had promised full American veteran benefits to Filipino soldiers who served under American command. After the war, the United States Congress passed the Rescission Act of 1946. It stripped Filipino veterans of the benefits they had been promised. The men who had suffered through the same starvation, the same disease, the same death march, the same Camp O'Donnell, received nothing. Not a pension, not medical care, not a monthly payment, nothing. It took until 2009, 64 years after the war ended, for the United States Congress to pass legislation providing any lump sum payment to surviving Filipino veterans. By then, most of them were dead. General Masaharu Homma, commander of the Japanese 14th Army, was tried before a military tribunal in Manila in 1946. He was held responsible for the Death March and the conditions at Camp O'Donnell under the doctrine of command responsibility. He was convicted. He was executed by firing squad on April 3, 1946. Lieutenant General Yashite Kawani, who was the officer specifically responsible for organizing the prisoner transport during the march, was also identified in tribunal proceedings as bearing direct responsibility for the logistics failures that turned a march into a death march. The command structure that failed to provide food, water, medical care, or adequate transport for 76,000 prisoners was held responsible. But the general who had left those 76,000 men on Bataan in the first place, who had taken his family, his staff, and his personal cook on the PT boat that night, was not tried for abandonment. He was given the Medal of Honor. He was made Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces. He was given an emperor's power over occupied Japan. General Douglas MacArthur remained one of the most decorated and celebrated military figures in American history. The men he left on Bataan received a memorial march in New Mexico every year. Now I need to ask you directly, did you know this story before today? Have you heard the words Bataan Death March before? Did your school teach you that the largest surrender in American military history was followed by a death march that killed up to 18,000 men? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Because this story happened in the Philippines, but it belongs to America, to the Philippines, to every country that sent soldiers to the Pacific and never fully reckoned with what happened to them. Share this video right now. Someone in your life believes America has always honored its prisoners of war. Show them Bataan. Show them the Filipino veterans who waited 64 years for a payment that came too late for most of them. Show them the general who got the Medal of Honor for leaving. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search official The Odd Archive. Follow us on Facebook, The Odd Archive. Follow us on TikTok. Search official The Odd Archive. Because the next story we are dropping involves a government that committed a war crime, documented it themselves, and then classified those documents for 50 years. We found them, and what they show will change how you understand the war you thought you already knew.